Hi, everybody. So sorry. We're going live. Wynton's joining us in 1 second. We got kicked off. We were just too exciting for Instagram. Everyone was enjoying this a little too much, I think. So if you just hold on 1 second, Wynton will be joining us. I think the app got a little jealous that we were also going live with Wynton on Zoom and on Facebook Live. So, you know, you gotta love technology, right? Here we go. He's coming in right now.
I love it. We got to go with the flow. It's all right. It's
Absolutely.
going on all over the place.
Exciting, right?
It's going all over the place. All the Zoom calls. You can believe they didn't expect this many people to be on the app, and a lot of us are using technology we haven't used. Stuff goes wrong. We got to keep going with the flow, and that's a part of the whole jazz experience. It doesn't stop. I see you improvising and keeping it going. I like what you're doing, Maddie. It's impressive. Just keep doing it. Just go with it.
Well, that's jazz improv. Yeah,
That's it. That's it. Get on the ledge and go with what you know.
Get on the ledge and go with what you know.
Go with what you know.
I love that. That's my new motto. And if everyone keeps on asking your questions down there, make sure you're commenting. Everyone's commenting where they're listening in. A lot of New Orleans. That's really great. Peace and love from everybody here too.
I see the Duzo is there from South Africa. I see you, man.
Yes.
That's my great piano player. We talked this morning. This guy is such a genius. If y'all don't know who he is, the Duzo Makatini. Oh, the sound. I was telling you, if my father would have heard him, he wouldn't have been able to stop talking about him. Another thing I want to say just about my father is that when he heard somebody who could play, it didn't matter where they could be in elementary school. He would call me and say, "Man, you got to hear this cat, or you got to hear." I remember when he first heard Sullivan Fortner, great piano player that we call Church Swing from New Orleans. Man, I heard a cat accompanying singers at a audition for some singers. He was like 11 years old, 12, unbelievable. And then he would go on and on. Like when he heard Terrence's opera, he says, "Oh man, the stuff Terrence wrote. Oh, I got to get a copy of the score. I got to, So his enthusiasm for people. I was telling the dudes, "Oh man, if my daddy heard you, he wouldn't have stopped talking about you."
I'm sure he appreciates that.
Oh, I'm telling you, Joe Saylor, the drummer, and Philip Keene, the bass player, he heard them when they were high school students in Pennsylvania. Man, you got to hear this rhythm section of high school kids. And then when they ended up playing with Jonathan Baptiste, he was like, "I told you those boys could play. And now they went back. Man, watch out." On and on. He was always like that, enthusiastic about other people that he had heard who could play.
It must have been really interesting, too. I mean, obviously, there's always different generations of jazz, and everyone comes up in their own class, so to say, their different class of jazz. And what was it like when you got to see all of these cats that you played with, kind of where they are now, and you still play with them, but has it been, what was that like?
Well, I love them. I'm against the generation gap. Like, I feel like it's something used to sell an idea to people that gives them the illusion that youth is a value. Youth is not a value. You're going to be young and you're going to get old. And youth doesn't mean you can play. It doesn't mean you have a new idea. It doesn't mean anything. It just means you're easy to sell something to. So with my younger musicians and students and the ones that I've seen, I went to so many schools. You think of musicians of different schools, where people think of them. I talked to Keon Harrell last night, or Mobetta Brown, or Robert Glasper, all these musicians, or Jason Moran. The first time I saw them, they were in high school. And there's not a feeling for me of any type of political argument with them and all the stuff that can go on. I'm just proud that they're playing. And I never looked at them. My father always let us play with him. He didn't create a space between him and us. And when I play with all the great musicians, like it could be Jerry Mulligan, or it could be Elvin Jones or John Lewis or the great Art Blakey, gave me a chance to learn how to play. They never gave me that feeling of you're young, or you have to learn how to play to deserve to be up here. So you could be any age and be sad, or you could be any age and be good. So I don't feel like a separation with them. I love them. And even if they can't play, if they're nice people, I love them. Like, you don't have to be able to play. And it's important to keep the standard up and to not confuse your personal relationship with people with their level of expertise on an instrument. Because some people really can play and they get better and they progress on their instruments, and some don't. But because a person does not progress on an instrument, that has nothing to say about them and their humanity and who they are as people. And that's how I was kind of tradition I was trained in.
We have a lot of questions saying, what have you been live streaming anything, or what have you been watching right now? since you've been social distancing or tuning into?
You know, we've been working so much just to keep our thing together. You know, it's like all these arts organizations, musicians, we have been struggling to stay alive. So I literally work more now than I've ever worked. I don't have any leisure time to do anything. I'm on phone calls. I'm in meetings. I'm trying to see what we can do to raise money for musicians, trying to get shows together. We have a gala that we're putting on April 15th with great musicians from around the world. Just even this morning, I talked to two of my friends. I talked to Duzo in South Africa, and I talked with Igor Bootman in Russia. Now we have long conversations just talking about what we're gonna do when we get out of here, and how much respect and love we have for one another, and how much we're gonna cherish the opportunities we had. So you know, my days and nights actually are filled with just it's I got to get on and check out more stuff because we're working in the orchestra. We're gonna put up a song maybe today that we all wrote together. Probably the first time 13 or 14 people wrote and arranged a blues. Each of us wrote a chorus and wrote our own arrangement, and it's called the Collaboratory Blues. It's for all the scientists working around the world on the same problem. So I set out the first chorus of a blues, and then all of our members we passed it from one to the other, right, finishing the melody, and the rhythm section recorded. Then we all wrote arrangements, and we had to all talk to each other about what our arrangement would be like, so it would be continuous. And then we recorded it all, and we finished it last night.
Wow. How different was that from the way that you usually put together these tunes?
It's very different. We've never done one with so many arrangers and composers. Right. We did one with like 6 or 7 of us working on a Coltrane song, Olé. That was maybe 3 or 4 years ago. But we also are always, it's instant when we start to rehearse. We follow our leads, and we have our way check downs the way that we play. Whereas now, you know, lead has to go first. Ryan plays his part, and Sherman and Vince. And then sometimes we cross voicing, so we had to kind of intricate. And we just did another one. We laid it out for our gala of Yardbird Suite, a new arrangement by the great Rich DeRosa. But this time, we went through the score, and we had a call with all of us, and we said, okay, we need these leads to play. So when it's cross voice, we determined who the lead was. We came one composite of all the lead voices in the rhythm section. And now today, the rest of us are going to get dressed up in our black suits, and we're going to play the whole arrangement. And then Veronica Swift and Camille will fill the vocal parts in.
Wow.
Camille Thurman. So it's interesting. It's fun. It's an interesting way to do stuff. It's not, of course, not like playing all together, but
right.
We're committed to it. You know, we just had a funny stream online where somebody was saying, "What can I do with measure 50 and 56? What are we gonna do about measure 50 and 56?" And Walter put a beer up and said, "This might help." And somebody said, "Okay." So you know, they're still crazy. I mean, we still kind of joke and play around all the time.
Mm-hmm. Thank God for technology, even though sometimes it likes to be a little funky on us. Thank God for it, you know?
You know, somebody my age, we can't imagine being on a telephone, looking at people talking to them. That used to be something you only saw on the Jetsons or something. So I embrace and love the technology. And if you think of how the technology is being used by scientists around the world to address the virus, or doctors, or case studies, you're a fan of this technology. And the way it's used in an educational way, stuff you had to spend hours and hours in a library researching book by book. Now you can get information, though you do now need human sources, because anything you can find up online. But
right.
I endorse both methods, but the technology is something.
Well, I'm thankful for it as well, so we can talk, and I can see you even when we're not in the office.
You know what I mean?
We have some more questions rolling in. Yep. I saw you put up Black, Brown, and Beige. Is Duke Ellington's music as relevant today as it was 50 years ago?
Yeah, it's going to be relevant as long as the United States of America is relevant, as long as democratic principles are relevant, as long as jazz is relevant and being able to play and improvise and solo in the context of harmonic form, as long as our mythology is relevant. Those kind of things about a certain type of individuality and negotiating that individuality within a group of people. And he's such a craftsman and such a genius. So in as much as artists' thoughts and opinions and ideas and interpretation of a mythology can last across time and epochs, he will remain important. And the fact that we don't know who he is, or maybe we don't study him, it has no it has no impact on his relevance, because there will be other times when people reach back in the past and only the most important and pertinent things survive. It's never something topical. Like, we're not reading Shakespeare for all the topical things in it. Those are footnotes. It's because it touches something deep inside of how we relate to one another as humans, and also because his writing is able to successfully surf the paradox of life, good and bad. Like he said, to be or not to be. He called music such sweet thunder. He takes things that are opposites and knows how to put them together. Duke is the master of that. And he also wrote a fantastic suite for Shakespearean themes. He was commissioned by the Shakespeare Festival, and he wrote an album entitled Such Sweet Thunder. So that's also a good album to get of Duke and to check him out. Sometime in the late 50s, I think it was 57, but I could be wrong. I got to ask Phil Schaap. Check, always Duke. Duke is always going to be pertinent.
Mm. And on the subject of Duke, can you speak a little bit? I know essentially Ellington, this was our 25th anniversary. It's going to be a little different this year, but right. If you can talk a little bit about, you know, what we're doing this year to celebrate what we will do in the future as well. Right.
We're going international this year. We're still serving our students, the 17 or 18 bands that were finalists that will come into New York. Members of our orchestra are getting online, doing master classes with everybody in those bands, but we've opened it up to fantastic high school ensembles we know about around the world. We're going to judge everything early, and then we're going to put everything up online, the performances of the bands. And we're going to use any tapes of songs and things that don't even have to be a part of the Ellington Festival that they would like to see presented. And we're going to, in between the songs, critique the songs and talk about their playing. We will not be giving away prizes, just that you're in it is the prize. Mm-hmm. And we're going to be celebrating our music and the achievements of our students, working with band directors as we always do. And we're much more festival than competition, but we put the competition in there to just make sure you know that it's real. Mm-hmm. And it's, in a way, it's very interesting. I read a line in William Butler Yeats's poetry once in a poem called Two Kings, where the lady who's the queen in the poem says, "Never will I choose to leave this life." Those could be the wrong words exactly, but never will I choose to leave this life sweetened by death. So that, once again, that's one of those things where death sweetens life, because you understand this is for real. You're going to reach a point where this is not. So live life to the fullest. And that's the only part of what we believe in competition. Doesn't mean it because you didn't win something. It means even that you're less than the person who won. We judge it. Some stuff is subjective. We just want you to be serious about it. Mm-hmm. And so we look forward. We're going to miss the kids. It's always a highlight of the year for our entire institution. Everybody volunteers. Maddie, you know, you can speak on it as much as me. You could give them the perspective from the staff standpoint.
I was last year was my first essentially Ellington. It was, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not afraid to admit I cried my eyes out of happy tears. I mean, standing back there and listening to these high school that plays some of the hardest songs that most right. experienced jazz musicians make. It's really incredible, and right. really also it's just they're all so happy to be there and so professional. I think about myself that age. I wish I was more like that, more focused and driven. And it's so great that you and the orchestra and everyone gives them so much love and attention and really gets to foster that. It's really beautiful. Yeah,
there's something. You know, there's 25 years of it. So I always think of the early years with Dave Berger and me, and we sitting down. And Dave was always transcribed so much of Duke's music, and he's so much into Duke and loves Duke so much and wanted to teach the music to the kids. And now with Jeff Hamilton, he's so funny. When I sit next to him, it's just like, this guy, he should be a comedian. So all, you know, the time of judging, just he's such an astute and acute judge, and he loves the kids. He knows a lot of them, and he's so I miss that time too, to sit with him and you know, just fellowship with him and be in his spirit and with his knowledge. Mm. But we're still gonna serve the kids, you know. Jeff and I, we still getting on the phone. We're talking about what we're gonna do. We're gonna get it together. Our education department is just as fired up. Todd Stoll is leading them. We have a lot of stuff online, and we're gonna be even more for real, and we're for real before.
Love that. Oh, we have some more questions. What flavor would you say the vibraphone brings to jazz?
A good one if you can play it. You know, I like all the instruments. Mm-hmm. I don't, you know, it's played so many different ways. You got the way Milt Jackson played, you know, is unbelievable. Joel Ross is a young, fantastic genius of a vibraphonist right now. And of course, you have Bobby Hutcherson. You got Stephon Harris, played in our orchestra for maybe a couple of summers. I love Stephon. You know, so many people. Warren Wolf. I mean, it's a fantastic instrument. I could just go on and on naming people. I mean, I love the instrument.
Oh, and speaking of instruments, we're gonna move to the drums. Which drummer has your favorite ride cymbal groove?
Man, that's a good question. I mean, there's so many who have a great kind of sound. I guess if I have to just go to the ride cymbal, you know, Kenny Clark, he had a swinging ride cymbal. Billy Higgins. You know, I played with Hig. It was very interesting. So when you play with Hig, I mean, then I was still learning how to play. So it wasn't like I played that well. I was always kind of rushing or not in the time good. But I noticed when I played with Hig, it was something very different. Maybe I was 19 or 20, 18, but he knew my father because my father had been in Los Angeles playing with Ornette Coleman. So he was very friendly to me. And I noticed when Hig was playing, the time was different. So I asked him, man, why is the time is so different? He said, man, don't move your where you're playing in the beat. I'm gonna find you. So he would mark soloists with his ride pattern. And when you played with him, he was changing the time that he played his stroke in to find the time you played in. So Ben Riley, great, fantastic, unbelievable ride. I loved him. Art Blakey, of course, great feel, and you know, good. Mel Lewis, deep swinger, loved to swing and play with in time. Great. I mean, it's you know, I mean, I love this a lot of. And today there are a lot of drummers, of course, and people I play with whose ride pattern I love to play with and who I love to play with. You know, Herlin Riley, Joe Farnsworth, love his swing. Jeff Hamilton, love his swing. Ali Jackson, love his swing. You know, yeah, there's drummers out here swinging.
Can't have jazz without swing, as
you know,
as you always say.
It's off debated out here, but that's a very difficult thing to do. You gotta imagine if somebody tell you don't have to swing no more, that takes a lot off your plate. There's a lot of burden. It's like not having the right counterpoint. Okay, it's much easier now. I don't have to know harmony. I got a much easier job.
Well, from moving a little bit, interesting question. Do you eat candy? It's Easter. What's your favorite candy? Or what was your favorite candy growing up?
You know, I don't really, but I think I'm not a big candy eater, but my favorite candy in Easter, I don't know. I know I didn't like Heavenly Hash. I can tell you that. That's the one I did.
What's that?
That's one being a little golden wrapper or something. It's been so long, I can't remember, but I don't, what did I like? I don't know. That's a good question. I just like the little chocolate eggs, you know? But my favorite candy bar, what's your favorite candy bar?
My favorite candy bar, I would say all of the above. I have a really big sweet tooth. It's bad. It's not great, but try not to eat too much candy here, social distancing, because it's a lot of sitting in the house. So.
Right. I know what you're saying. I like Almond Joy. That's a good candy.
Ooh, that's really good too.
My brother always liked Three Musketeers, but he would dunk his Three Musketeer bar in Tahitian treat drink. So don't ask me why. Yes. Woo. Branford, that's what he would do. He put his Three Musketeers. You know, you have a lot of brothers. We all have quirks and stuff we would do, but I was looking at him.
just judging a little bit, but
no, I wasn't judging.
Everyone likes their thing.
I wasn't judging because sometimes you try that thing and it would be, you know, it turn you on to something different. It's not what you would do, but I wasn't judging it.
Oh, do you want to do another book?
Yeah, probably. Sure. I'm always I want to do something. Jeff Ward and I were talking about working on a book about the history of Afro-American music. And we have an outline and we started working on it. So we've been working on it. I always laugh because Jeff and I, every Sunday we meet at his house and we get biscuits. Diane, his wife, cooks these biscuits. It's been 20 years we've been doing this. So we worked on one book together just as a hobby. Like we enjoyed doing it. He's such a great writer. So when we finished the one, I said, hey, we have to celebrate that we finished working on the book. Diane said, yeah, let's celebrate. Jeff said, we're going to celebrate by not working on it. So, you know, he's like, yeah, we have something scheduled, something we're doing and we're going to do.
Great. Well, everyone here in the comments is very excited, and they're saying big thumbs up to that idea.
Right.
How did you come up with blood on the fields?
I was always fascinated with American slavery. When I was 6 or 7 years old, I went to a building in New Orleans called the Cabildo. It subsequently burnt down, but that building had slave chains and all of the kind of artifacts of slavery. Now, you got to, just my age, I mean, I grew up really in segregation. It was in the 60s. People have a tendency to think that because civil rights legislation was passed in the mid-60s, or because Brown versus the Board of Education was the mid-50s, that life in the South changed. It did not change. It was how it was. And I was always moved by the stories of slavery that came out of my family, stuff I had heard. I knew really older people. My great uncle, who I lived with when I was 6 years old, was born in 1883. He was a stonecutter for the cemetery. He was always talking about slavery. And I studied, I've heard about Frederick Douglass at that time at the Cabildo. They gave us little cartoons. And that cartoon told the life of Frederick Douglass. So I read it, and I studied and thought about slavery for a long time. My senior paper when I was in high school was on slavery. Every chance I got, I would write about people like Harriet Tubman. And when I was in history classes, I was always arguing against the misrepresentation of what it was. And, you know, it was a struggle a lot of times in the early years, especially if you had that type of consciousness. And I guess it is for people in schools now, even though I don't really know what it's like at this time, because so much memory has been lost. And now we're just struggling to teach kids any kind of history. But it was something that was moving to me. So when I had the chance to write a longer piece, I naturally went to slavery. And then if I knew that Cassandra was going to do it, Cassandra Wilson, and she's from Mississippi, I'm from Louisiana. And Mississippi was always known by Louisiana people. It was known to be the worst state in the South for slavery and for segregation. And I knew her sound. I wanted her to get the female voice to be really deep and heavy. And for some reason, in all my big pieces, I always write the main character is always a woman. I think it could be just because my mama and just in the Southern life, the position women occupied in terms of the intellectual weight that they had and the depth of their understanding of things and all of what they suffered. Just kind of, if you were in a slavery situation, you were a woman, you were having a hard time. You were in between a lot of masters, you know, and you had a delicate dance. And because my mama was so conscious, she always put that on my mind. And her favorite person in the 1960s was Fannie Lou Hamer. Boy, she would talk about Fannie Lou Hamer. So I just wrote a piece last year called The Ever Funky Lowdown. And the woman character that's the center of that piece is Fannie Lou Hamer. And that's because of my mama. So I know that's a long answer for that, but that's why I always go back to those themes. I think there's a lot about the redemption of America that still has not occurred because we've never come to grips with the legacy of slavery and how it continues to plague and affect us in this current time. It affects our politics, our school system, how we deal with our finances, what has been inherited, because slaves were not just on plantations. They were also a very profitable stock. So the whole nation was a part of this. Civil War, we lost 700,000 people, and it still was not enough to teach us. We ended up in the same place. And we still, if we even look at what's being reported, I don't know whether it's true, about the effects of COVID-19, that it disproportionately affects Black people and poor whites. You're going to see this narrative go through American history. And until we seriously address it in a mature and adult way, not in some way this unrealistic or this just based on kind of slogan and feel good, let's get past this moment. It's like personal problems you have that may be deeply rooted. You're not going to just get over them by having a Coke and a smile. And that's why I keep returning to that and to that symbology and those themes.
Thank you for that. That was a
It's
really
kind of
great
long.
answer.
It's long,
No,
but
no,
it's very
a lot
serious.
of people are asking that question too. That's,
you know, it's serious to me, and I don't mind joking, but I don't mind being serious too. You know,
I think it's important. You got to balance them both out. That's what people,
why not?
You know, you got to be
Why not?
real. That's why people love you.
Let's try. Let's try to be for real.
And we have time for one or two more questions. I'm going to go with, would you do a Skeins domain with Ryan Kisor as a guest? We wanted to hear from him.
Let me tell you, if I could get him to do that, that would be one of the greatest Skeins domains. I sat next to this man for 20-something years. You know, the respect and love I have for him. I don't know what to tell y'all. Like just his plan, the consistency of it, the integrity he has, just the honesty that he approaches things, just the clarity of it. So I'm going to ask him to do it. He normally doesn't have that much to say. So I say, hey man, let's do a skate. So man, no man, that's not my thing. He's not really talkative, but when he starts to talk, he's made a lot of deep observations, and he's such a pleasure to play with, and I just love him as a brother. You know, he's like, and I'm speaking for our whole section: Kenny Rampton, Marcus Printup. Marcus loves Ryan so much, man. He'll call me, man. You talk to Ryan, and so yeah, okay. I'm gonna approach him about it. I want to do one with him.
Fantastic. Internet. We've said on the internet. So
let's go. Let's see.
Come through.
Hey, start telling him. Let's do it.
We're gonna wrap up with this question too. This is interesting. Do you approach writing classical music differently than you do writing jazz music?
Yeah, it's very different because when you're writing jazz, you're trying to write music to get to an improvisation part that will be the development section. So you're always thinking of, is this progression something people will want to play on? Or you also don't have to be as descriptive when you're writing music because we all play the same language and we know it. And I'm also largely writing for the same musicians that I know, so I write for them. When you write for an orchestra, we have many points of intersection. It's very complicated to balance it and figure out how we all can have something to play. I don't want to just have an orchestra sitting up playing, knowing and growing up in orchestral tradition. We don't want to play footballs and just whole notes the entire time, and you have to have something for strings to play. So you have to access that fiddle tradition and how the fiddle tradition was translated into jazz. You have to find common language that we share. Like that's why I tend to go toward marches and any type of American popular writing that allows you to be much more sophisticated. Like if you take that strain from George Gershwin to Leonard Bernstein to Gunther Schuller and everybody who was writing third stream music, and you follow that line, and Aaron Copland in between kind of at the same time as Bernstein, and you take the line of James P. Johnson and Duke Ellington and John Lewis and jazz musicians who are also following that same kind of line, you can find some common ground. But I've worked on it for a very long time, trying to figure out how to find the balances. And I sometimes when I'm writing a piece, I'll set the chart of the orchestra up, and I look at my French horn section and say, I got to give y'all something. I look at my trumpet section, I got to give y'all something. I look at my cellos, I want my cellos to have something. My violas, I don't want them to just be bored the whole time. I got to give them something. My second violins, I'm looking at it. And then, you know, at the jazz band, I want to make sure the saxophones playing, they occupy the space that the French horns occupy. Then I got my classical percussion, they're way in the back. So I'm trying to figure out how can I line them up so that they're swinging. You know, I cannot break them up and give them grooves they can play. But I don't want to also have basses just playing ostinatos all the time. So I'm calling Carlos and hey man, what's a good bass line? And he'll be like, hey Skane, you got to write the basses up in this register, man, and you don't want them to fall. My other friend David Grossman, unbelievable jazz bass player, plays in the New York Philharmonic. I'll go through bass parts with him and he'll say, no, write it like this, an eighth note with a dot over it or a dash, and also nomenclature. Like how are you gonna represent something on a page? And these pieces are very, very time intensive. So just putting dots and dashes and marks and instructions over every part, over what may be 730,000 notes. But you have to spend as much time on every little detail because you don't have a lot of rehearsal time. So whatever is not graphically represented, you're going to struggle with it. Then I have to say that the violin concerto I wrote for Nicola Benedetti, I learned more from her having different performances of it because she would write back and tell me stuff, this is wrong in this measure, that's wrong in this measure, that's right this. There was a way to workshop something without me having to be there. And I learned more in that time about just how precise to be with the writing, because the music will already be written, but you have to have things so that they can be rehearsed very quickly. And a rehearsal with 64, 70 people, you don't have time to say, let me tell you what I think about this or play this here. No. So that's a long answer to it. I'm going quick because it's such a difficult thing to do, to give everybody something meaningful and challenging to play in your own voice and not imitate these kind of styles that maybe the Academy co-signs or some certain group of critics or people who may not know something really about something, but who have to pretend like they do. It's hard to really get deep enough into what you know about to do something meaningful that musicians will want to play if they're serious about the music.
Well, I think that's a beautiful question to end on for right now. And before I let, of course, Wynton have, say his last thoughts, I just want to remind everyone, thank everyone first for tuning in today with Wednesdays with Wynton. As always, we're so happy for all of your support tuning in. He'll be every Monday night at 9 p.m. EDT. You can check us out on Zoom or on Facebook Live at Jazz Lincoln Center. And he'll be doing a live talk with special guests. We also have a slew of amazing other programming online. We have education classes. We have master classes. We have other live events. We'll be streaming live at home from Dizzy's. Really a little bit of everything. You can head to jazz.org, check out the whole schedule, where to find everything. And as Wynton mentioned, we have our gala, our virtual gala coming up next Wednesday, April 15th, which will be amazing. So we hope you can join us for all those fun things. And Wynton, anything else you would like to say?
I just want to thank y'all for tuning in. And I want to tell you that whoever is not really just absolutely broke by this, which a lot of us are out of work, a lot of us are struggling, arts that you like, musicians that you know that are struggling, support them in any way that you can. It could be even just a meal. This is a time that we have to call upon our neighbors and friends to survive. And we can't have the luxury of pride. And it's very hard for people who are used to working and doing their thing and making their own way to reach out to their friends and neighbors and say, hey, I need a donation or I need help. So I want us all to be liberated from the pride that keeps us from doing it. And those of us who have the means and the ability to help others in their community, stretch that hand out. I certainly appreciate y'all tuning in. Nothing but love and respect. Sorry for our technical glitches. Maddie, thank you. It's great to see you.
And great to see you as well.
Great health to all of y'all. I hope your families are safe and everybody is prospering and using this time well. Much love.
Thanks, everyone. We'll see you soon.
All right now. All right.